Canada has ordered TikTok to shut down, citing potential risks associated with the platform's operations. As of right now, Canadian users can continue enjoying TikTok even though their offices in the country have been shut down, but users are urged to heed privacy and data security guidelines. Attackers are creatively using copyright scams and driver exploits to sneak the Rhadamanthys and SteelFox malware into unsuspecting systems as a part of a global phishing scheme. Developers beware, there is a malicious package named Fabrice that has been lurking on the Python package index for over 3 years, covertly stealing AWS keys through crafty typo squatting techniques. And finally, Cisco has swiftly patched a critical vulnerability in its industrial wireless access points that could allow complete device compromise through a simple HTTP request. You're listening to the Daily Decrypt. If you're in the United States like me, you are well aware of the war against TikTok, which follows a thorough national security review incorporating insights from the country's security and intelligence apparatus, even though details of the specific threats posed remain undisclosed. The order to shut down their offices focuses on concerns surrounding ByteDance Ltd, which is the owner of TikTok, and their operations within Canada, reflecting widespread fears over excessive data collection and the potential exploitation by foreign governments, particularly the Chinese Communist Party's influence on user data. Canada's stance is reinforcing a broader narrative about safeguarding national security from possible foreign interference, particularly through digital platforms wielding vast amounts of personal information, which, as free citizens in America especially, we want to be able to choose what we can do with our own personal data, right? If we want to give it to China, we should be allowed to. But the United States does have a stake in the game because with enough personal data, especially in today's age of AI being able to process tons of information really fast, as well as make predictions about that data, we want to keep that data as secure as possible and limit it so it's not used to compromise our national security. And while the whole TikTok debate may be a little ambiguous, we're not entirely sure about what is actually being used against us, but we do know that the threat is grave. Phishing remains the top threat to individuals and corporations alike. And there have been 2 malware campaigns named SteelFox and Rhadamanthys that have emerged as potential threats, where they exploit themes of copyright infringement and vulnerable drivers to trap their victims globally. They have tried to name their tactic after the name of the malware, which is Rhadamanthys, by calling it Copyright-Manthys, but it's just the name is too complicated, so it seems they've wasted all their genius on this malware itself and not the naming. But these attackers have orchestrated a large-scale phishing campaign and have been active since July of 2024, focusing on victims across the United States, Europe, East Asia, and South America. The campaign impersonates well-known companies, predominantly from the entertainment, media, technology, and software sectors, misleading recipients into downloading a version of the malware, which then steals your information. And what we're going to continue to see more of is that these artists are using artificial intelligence to create spear phishing emails crafted to appear as copyright violation notices, which deceive victims into accessing a URL that directs to Dropbox or Discord, ultimately deploying a malicious archive containing a vulnerable executable for sideloading the malware. The other malware I mentioned earlier, called SteelFox, was identified by Kaspersky and operates by masquerading as cracked software like Foxit PDF Editor or AutoCAD, and has been targeting victims particularly in Brazil and China since February of 2023. This malware is delivered through sophisticated execution chains, including shellcoding, and it abuses Windows services and drivers to extract sensitive data such as credit card information. And what's key to its operation is a dropper app that, upon gaining admin privileges, executes a loader that exploits older versions of vulnerable drivers, specifically WinRing0.sys. This allows attackers to mine cryptocurrencies by launching a modified XMRig miner connected to a preset mining pool. Additionally, SteelFox employs TLS 1.3 for secure data exfiltration, targeting sensitive browser data through robust C++ coding practices, which, of course, encryption is going to make it harder to detect this activity. But if you do try to write a Python script to detect this activity, make sure you don't use the malicious package named Fabrice, because this package has been floating around the Python package index for over 3 years. And while it's gone unnoticed, it's been methodically stealing AWS credentials from thousands of developers. The technique employed to distribute this malware is known as typo squatting, where Fabrice initiates the legitimate and widely respected Fabric library used for executing shell commands over SSH, but while Fabric boasts over 202 million downloads, Fabrice itself, which I guess is pronounced Fabric-E, but it's Fabrice itself has surprisingly amassed over 37,000 downloads, taking advantage of developers' trust in the authentic package Fabric. The true threat of Fabrice lies in its sophisticated ability to adapt its malicious payloads based on the victim's operating system. So in Linux environments, it uses a unique function to deploy and execute 4 distinct shell scripts sourced from an external server, effectively creating backdoors and stealing credentials. On Windows, this attack rolls out a little bit differently, using a Visual Basic script operating as a launcher, enabling a hidden Python script called d.py to carry out commands, which will subsequently download harmful executables labeled chrome.exe, as well as setting persistent tasks to execute this file regularly in case of a reboot or what have you. But overall, this package is attempting to gain access to corporations' AWS instances through developer credentials, maybe living on a developer's machine, or even being hard-coded into scripts that this Python package has access to. I'm not entirely sure, but watch out for Fabrice. And finally, a critical vulnerability in Cisco's ultra-reliable wireless backhaul, or URWB access points, has been patched. So if you have any of these in your environment, make sure to go update immediately, because if this is left open to exploitation, specially crafted HTTP requests could allow attackers to execute arbitrary commands with root privileges on the device's operating systems, essentially giving them full control over that device. This vulnerability was identified by a Cisco employee during internal testing. Great job, employee. Woo! And the timing was fortunate, as there's no evidence of public exposure or malicious exploitation. Cisco does advise disabling URWB mode as a prevention step, but strongly recommends updating to software version 17.15.1 for a definitive resolution. And before we wrap up, if you are watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button, because we are almost to that coveted number of 1,000 subscribers. So please help us get over that bump. Thank you.
This has been the Daily Decrypt. If you found your key to unlocking the digital domain, show your support with a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It truly helps us stand at the frontier of cyber news. Don't forget to connect on Instagram or catch our episodes on YouTube. Until next time, keep your data safe and your curiosity alive.